Now, the third example, this project is called Dane Wajich, Daneza Stories and Songs, Dreamers and the Land. So this is a community media project that I worked on for a long time with a lot of people. So this was a very big collaborative project. The idea here is to, I should just say, this is the homepage of the website that you can see online that shows this whole project. I'm going to show you in some detail. Here, the idea is intangible heritage research and documentation through participatory media production. So that means that youth were trained in video documentation so that the community was the one who did the documentation. It involved very open, long-term consultation with a whole range of community members, chiefs, council members, youth, elders, and then a consent process that was developed in collaboration with the band. So how did they want to deal with the issue of consent for documentation? That's what we followed. I'm going to show you how the band used tangible objects or material culture as a way to stimulate the documentation of intangible heritage, and then how, based on that, we went and documented oral traditions, histories of places, and also in this area the impact of oil and gas exploration, so industry and environmental degradation. And this is available publicly online. So the key issue for this project is conveying a sense of place and also Daneza history from the perspective of the Daneza people. Daneza is the name of the people that I work with in northern British Columbia. To present a holistic view of heritage and living culture, and to tell a story that competes with the authority of the oil and gas industry and the kind of colonial narratives in this place, because you probably know, or you might not know, that in Canada the indigenous peoples were colonized by the British. So they had a very, very difficult time and still struggle with the effects of discrimination, denial of rights, and very harsh policies of assimilation, including being forced onto reserves and children being taken away to be educated in residential schools where they were not allowed to speak their native language. So that's been extremely damaging for Native people in Canada. So now people are healing from this experience and still dealing with the consequences. So projects like this are important because people haven't always had the opportunity to tell their story, when people really tend to know the story of the British and their story of colonizing their land. Okay, so this is where my research is. Right-hand corner of this map is where my research is. I started this project, or I started working on this project after an anthropologist named Robin Riddington started a project where he digitized all of his documentation from 40 years of doing ethnographic research in one community, or several communities, but with Daneza people. This was photographs, thousands of photographs, hours of audio and video recordings. He transferred into digital form, and then he made them available on this website, which is a catalog with some images and some media from all of his work. So when this catalog, this archive was returned to the community, they wanted to figure out some projects that they could work on that would allow them to learn to access this material so that they could use it in their own cultural life and their own projects. So I came to work with them along with many other collaborators for a project to document stories and songs of Daneza people. So in this picture, an elder named Tommy Atachi has a moose hide drum skin drum. So it's the skin of the drum that was very important because it was created by a person called a dreamer, someone who has dreams and visions of heaven. And I don't have time to explain more about that, but these were very, very important people in Daneza culture. But now there are no more of these dreamers because of many reasons, but the culture has changed. So those people don't exist in the same way that they used to, but they still have some of the drums that they created that have drawings of the dreamer's vision of heaven on the drum. So for this project, the chief at that time brought one of these very special drum skins to the meeting. And in the meeting here, you can see the elders sitting around, and it's a big room, so there's a lot of people there. And Tommy Atachi, who's also a very important person in the community, is talking about the importance of these drums, and he's actually describing the connections between the drum and also intangible knowledge, the language that they speak, the places where people used to travel, and the dreamers, what the dreamers used to teach to people. So let me show you this project. Based on what Tommy Atachi told us, and told the whole group, and what the elders decided to do, is to travel out into the landscape. But you can see that that's a map. Yes? Looks like a map with 8 different places that we traveled to. So here, let's see, here's an example. We went to a place called Aleitse-tsa. And we filmed video of here, Tommy Atachi talking about one of these dreamers whose name was Aleitse. And he told the oral history of Aleitse. Or here's another place that we went to called but let me just, I'll show you. So here at this place, Tatsul-tsage, you can see the process of community media production. So we were taken by elders to a very specific place that they remembered. And here you can see on the right, these are people reviewing the video that was just filmed, which was an oral history about the death of one of these dreamers at this very place. So Tommy Atachi, in the video I was going to show you a little bit of, he talks about, he tells the story that was told to him of a person who experienced the death of this dreamer, which was a very beautiful story. So the idea is that this place inspires the telling of a story about that specific place. So that's an example of how a community process would allow a very very special documentation of traditions related to place. But we also know that they are related to that tangible object, the drum, because that inspired the idea to go to all of these places and talk about dreamers. So here on this website, you can see images of the process of documentation, and then you can watch videos. So he's talking about this is the story of the death of the dreamer Adishlishe, and he's speaking in his native language. So after we recorded this, there was a very long process of translating all of these narratives, and people in the community worked, linguistic specialists in the community worked with linguistic anthropologists to document the language, because this is also an important part of a project like this. Also, I just want to point out at this place, here you can see there is a song that we included that came from the archive that I told you about, that the anthropologist produced and gave back to the community. This is a song recorded in 1979. Can you, oh, thank you. So this is an example of documentation that was recorded. So the documentation was recorded in 1979, then it was archived in the anthropologist's archive, but people didn't have a lot of access to it, maybe just tapes sometimes that when the anthropologist had time and energy to give them to people. Here, by digitizing it and making it a part of the project, he could connect an old recording to new recordings, or he could bring this old documentation together with a new project so that this could be transmitted, it could be shared, and younger people could hear it and also see the way this kind of tradition is used in their community today. So how it's alive and how they might want to keep it alive.